Just 45 minutes north of Copenhagen lies Helsingør, a harbor town of history and legend. From colorful streets and medieval churches to Kronborg Castle, Shakespeare's Elsinore, this is a place where the past still lives. Inside the fortress, casemates whisper of battles, royal rooms recall Denmark's kings, and the ballroom still echoes with celebration. Join us as we explore its old town and stand on the ramparts of Hamlet's castle. Welcome to Helsingør, and this is our story. It was a beautiful morning, the perfect time to visit Helsingør. We took the train from Copenhagen, and in just 45 minutes we arrived. From a distance, a large red brick building with copper spires towers over the town. You might wonder, is it a train station or a castle? In fact, it's Helsingør Station, built in the 19th century. Right beside it stand the ferry and bus terminals, a busy hub where land and sea routes meet. From the station, we wandered through historic streets, where colorful facades and little shops recall Helsingør's trading past. The ambience is unmistakably historic yet alive, echoing the city's long story. One narrow street leads to another, a maze of history guiding us towards St. Olaf's Church. Along the way, we passed a tombstone for King Hamlet, a stage reminder that Helsingør is Shakespeare's Elsinore. Soon after, the streets opened onto St. Olaf's Church, the city's medieval cathedral. Built in brick in 1559, it was once called St. Olaf's Church, dedicated to Norway's St. Olaf. Stepping inside, you find a modestly sized church, not the vast grandeur of Rome's basilicas, where Gothic arches rise above treasures from the 1600s. A carved pulpit, crystal chandeliers, stained glass windows that color the light, a Baroque altarpiece rich with biblical scenes, the old sandstone baptismal font from 1579, an organ perched above the entrance, and tombstones set into the floor. So the space feels less like a museum and more like history breathing within the cathedral soaring space. Stepping outside, the church bells began to ring again, drawn by their sound. We walked a few minutes through colorful houses until we reached the Church of St. Mary. Originally a monastery church, it was built by Carmelite monks on land granted in 1430 by King Eric of Pomerania. After the Reformation, the monastery became a hospital, and today it stands as one of the best preserved medieval monasteries in Northern Europe, open to visitors. However, the entrance is through the arcade, once the gateway to the cloister. We walked around the walls and stepped through the same passageway the monks once used. Unfortunately, the church itself was closed today due to illness, but that only opened the door to an unexpected adventure. The monastery, however, remained open, inviting us to wander the cloister, admire frescoes, explore historic halls, or simply relax with a book, all without paying admission. Amazingly well maintained, it continues to serve as the seat of the Helsingør Diocese since 1995, while the church remains a place of worship. We lingered a little longer, grateful that this history is so well preserved. Just around the corner on Øresund Strait, the mural history of the churches vividly illustrates the monastery's journey, from the monks' care for the sick, through the upheaval of the Reformation, to its enduring role today. From there, we moved on toward Helsingør's old town. Timber-framed houses and brightly painted facades line the charming streets, each corner with its own unique character. The afternoon was quiet and calm, inviting us to pause for a relaxing break. Around the corner lies Axeltorv, the town's main square. Once a bustling marketplace, it still carries that lively spirit today, with cafes, shops, and stalls set against the statue of Eric of Pomerania. The king remembered for introducing the sound toll in 1429, a levy on ships passing through the Øresund Strait that brought wealth and prominence to Helsingør. On this quiet afternoon, we couldn't resist an ice-cold drink.
Let's go.
Moving along, we came upon the Church of St. Vincent, a Catholic church, humble in size and simple in form, offering a calm pause after our refreshing Aperol. Immediately across is the town's cemetery, quiet and shaded, where rows of headstones mark lives long gone. I found myself wondering what stories they might share, if only they could speak. Finally, the streets open to the waterfront, where the old shipyard has been repurposed into the Cuiltural Yard and Maritime Museum, with Kronborg Castle rising beyond. Once a place of steel and labor, it is now a stage for art, music, and community, where Helsingør's past and present meet at the edge of the sea. Kronborg is known as Hamlet's castle, a fortress made famous in Shakespeare's play. Scholars believe Shakespeare never visited, but the castle's grandeur and its role guarding the Øresund Strait gave him the perfect setting for his tragedy. Like countless visitors before us, we arrived at the Brohus, the yellow bridge house, to buy our tickets. From there, we followed the path once guarded by soldiers, crossing the bridge over the old moat with views of Helsingør and St. Olaf's Church in the distance, until we reached the Kronborg Gate. Once a fortified stronghold, the Kronborg Gate now welcomes visitors into Kronborg's outer defenses. Inside, we circled the outer fortress, walking along the ramparts and the grassy moat where Kronborg's defenses once stood firm. The castle's massive walls rose above us, the Danish flag rippling in the breeze, a reminder that this place was both a military bastion and a royal residence. The weather was kind, and we let ourselves sink into it, taking everything in slowly, one step at a time. Along the way, we noticed the ramparts lined with cannons, reminders of the castle's military past, and, as we were told, still fired today in salute to the royal family. Step by step, the path carried us closer to the darker, inner gate, and then, beneath Neptune and Mercury, the fortress opened into its courtyard. The courtyard spread wide, surrounded by the castle's four wings in classic Renaissance style. Stone walls rose around us, with windows that once looked out from royal rooms and grand halls. This was the heart of Kronborg, a place for ceremonies, gatherings, and daily life. Today, visitors pause here to take in the scale of the castle and feel its history. No wonder it stands as a UNESCO World Heritage Site. In this courtyard, history meets performance. Actors in costume bring Shakespeare to life, a reminder that Kronborg is forever tied to Hamlet. I noticed theatrical props, like a skull placed at the drinking fountain, while visitors tried their balance on high walking sticks, filling the space with laughter. Inside the castle, King Frederick II and Queen Sophie greeted us in silence, their statues guarding the entrance. The royal apartments show how Danish royalty once lived. Today, certain rooms are reimagined with wall paintings of the royal family, staged with disco rhythms, flashing lights, and playful props that add a theatrical twist to the visit. Leaving the disco lights behind, we step into the tapestry room, where history is woven into every thread tells of Danish kings and their battles. From here, the adjoining hall opens into the grand ballroom, once a stage for diplomacy and celebration with royal banquets, music, and dancing. Today, its vast space is used for concerts, performances, and cultural events, including educational visits by tourists like us. Here, visitors admire paintings along the walls and even sit in the king's chair, a playful nod to royal tradition. Beneath the ballroom is the chapel, entered from the main courtyard. It was the only part of the castle to survive the fire of 1629, and inside you can still see the carved pews, the altar, the pulpit, and even the Renaissance organ, all standing as they did centuries ago. From there, we pass by the flag bastion, set high above the defenses and looking out over the Øresund Strait. Its cannons once controlled access to the Baltic, helping Denmark collect tolls from passing ships. Today, the bastion still echoes with cannon salutes on royal occasions. Beneath the fortress lie the casemates, stone chambers that are dark, cold, and damp. With small windows for lookout, they once served as barracks and storerooms during sieges. And here, legend says, Holger Dansk sleeps, forever guarding Denmark until the day he is needed. Our visit to the castle ended here, a reminder that even within these stone walls, life was always tied to the world outside, leaving visitors with a lasting sense of Kronborg's defensive past. From there, we walked up to the ferry terminal and boarded an Øresundslingen boat bound for Helsingor, Sweden, a short crossing that links two historic towns across the strait. As the ferry pulled away, Kronborg Castle slowly faded behind us while the skyline of Helsingor grew clearer with every minute.
The crossing takes approximately 20 minutes.
In just 20 minutes, we stepped ashore and enjoyed our time in Helsingor with a few pictures and drinks before returning to Helsingør. As the sun began to set, we could have stayed longer, but it was time to head back. We crossed the strait once more, the view from the water unforgettable, flags waving us off as Helsingor slowly disappeared from sight. The train station sits right beside the ferry terminal, so we easily caught the train to Copenhagen, another city full of fun and stories to share. But that's the next video. Please like, comment, and subscribe. Thanks for watching.